I want to tell you about the most dangerous part of your spiritual life. It's not the moment you're tempted to do something big and bad. It's not the moment you're in a crisis. The most dangerous part is the silence. Think about the Israelites. They had just seen the Red Sea split. They had seen water come out of a rock. They stood at the base of Mount Sinai, and the ground was literally shaking under their feet. They heard the voice of God, a sound so terrifying and beautiful, they begged Moses to make it stop. They shouted, "Everything God says, we will do." And then Moses went up the mountain, and he stayed there. 1 day, 5 days, 2 weeks, a month. I imagine the conversations around the campfires. Do you think he's still alive? Did the fire consume him? Maybe God changed his mind. When God goes silent, we get weird. We get anxious. We start looking for something, anything to fill the void. This isn't just a story about ancient nomads. This is a story about you on a Tuesday night when your prayers feel like they're hitting a brass ceiling and you start wondering if you're just talking to yourself. Today, we are going to talk about what happens when the mountain goes quiet. We're going to talk about why you turn aside quickly, why God calls you his treasure even when you're failing, and how to pick up the pieces when you've smashed your own covenants.
Before we get into the rules, we have to get into the relationship. In Exodus 19, 3-6, before the 10 Commandments are even a thought on paper, God says something that should fundamentally shift the way you look at yourself in the mirror. He tells Moses to tell the people that if they will hear his voice, they will be a peculiar treasure to him. When we hear peculiar, we think of that one uncle who collects antique spoons. We think it means weird. But the Hebrew word is Segullah. In the ancient world, a king had 2 types of wealth. He had the national treasury, the money used for the army and the roads. That was commonwealth. But then the king had a private treasury, his Segullah. These were the jewels he picked out personally, the ones he didn't show the public, the ones he held in his own hand. God is looking at you with your messy history, your secret habits, and your shaky faith, and he is calling you his Segullah. Think about the psychological impact of that. Most of us live our lives trying to become valuable. We think if we work hard enough or look churchy enough or keep enough of the rules, then and only then will God look at us and say, "Okay, you're worth something." But in Exodus 19, God calls them his treasure before they have the 10 Commandments. He calls them his treasure while they still have the dust of Egypt under their fingernails. If you feel like damaged goods today, I need you to hear me. You don't keep the commandments to earn the title of treasure. You keep the commandments because you already are the treasure, and you don't want to tarnish the gold. Your obedience isn't a down payment on his love. It's a thank you note for it. Do you see the difference? One is a heavy burden of "I have to." The other is a joyful realization of "I want to." If you truly knew that the King of the universe considered you his private, prized possession, how would you walk into your office tomorrow?
But here's the thing. Meeting God isn't a casual vibe. In Exodus 19:10, God tells the people they have to sanctify themselves. They have to wash their clothes. They have to be ready against the 3rd day. We live in a culture of instant access. We want on-demand spirituality. We want to spend 23 hours and 55 minutes of our day immersed in the noise, the politics, the doom scrolling, and the chaos of 2026, and then we want to spend 5 minutes in prayer and feel the burning of the bush. And when we don't feel it, we say, "Well, I guess God isn't real." But the law of the mountain is this: sacred experiences require preparation. Imagine you're going to meet the most important person in the world. You wouldn't show up in your gym clothes, mid-phone call, distracted and sweaty. You would prepare. You would focus your mind. Why do we think we can meet God without a transition? Look at your life. What is your third day? When you go to church or when you sit down for the sacrament, are you washing your clothes? I'm not talking about laundry. I'm talking about your mind. If the burning bush feels like a cold ember, it might not be because God isn't there. It might be because you haven't taken your shoes off. Preparation isn't about being perfect enough to meet God. It's about being still enough to notice He's already in the room.
Now let's get into the 10. Exodus 20. I want you to stop seeing these as a to-do list. I want you to see them as the architecture of human flourishing. Think about a river. If a river has no banks, it's not a river. It's a swamp. It's stagnant. It doesn't go anywhere. But if you give that water 2 solid banks, it gains power. It flows. The 10 Commandments are the banks of your soul. Let's look at them through a 2026 lens, because these aren't ancient rules. They're the secrets to the peace you've been looking for. The internal guardrails. No other gods. God isn't an egomaniac. He's a protector. He knows that anything you worship other than Him will eventually eat you alive. If you worship money, you'll never have enough. If you worship your reputation, you'll live in constant fear of a comment section. God says, put me first so you can finally stop being a slave to everything else. No idols. An idol is just a god we can control. We don't carve statues anymore, we carve identities. We worship our political parties, our bodies, our careers. But an idol can't love you back. The social guardrails. Honor thy father and mother. This is about continuity. In a world that's obsessed with the now, God says, don't forget the roots that gave you life. Thou shalt not covet. This is the social media commandment. Coveting is looking at someone else's highlight reel and hating your own behind the scenes. God says, stop looking at their life and start living yours. Jesus later said that if we love God and love our neighbors, we fulfill all of this. Why? Because you don't steal from someone you love. You don't lie to someone you love. The law isn't a cage, it's the fence around the playground that keeps the wolves out. Now, we have to talk about the ugly part. Exodus 32. Moses is up on the mountain. He's been gone for nearly 6 weeks. Down at the bottom, the people are losing their minds. They go to Aaron and they say, as for this Moses, we wot not what has become of him. Make us gods to go before us. Look at the language. They don't even call him their leader. They call him this Moses. They're scared, they're in a wasteland, they feel abandoned. So they take their gold, the gold God gave them when they left Egypt, and they melt it down to make a calf. Why a calf? Because a calf is something they could see. A calf is something they could control. A calf doesn't stay on a mountain for 40 days and leave you feeling alone. This is the turning aside quickly. I want you to look at your own life. What is your golden calf? When life gets hard, when the marriage is cold, when the job is stressful, and God feels 10,000 miles away, where do you go for comfort? Do you go to a bottle? Do you go to a screen? Do you go to a shopping cart? We all have things we melt down to fill the void. And here is the tragedy. While the Israelites were at the bottom of the mountain making a fake God, the real God was at the top of the mountain, giving Moses the plans for how he was going to come down and live among them. They settled for a statue because they couldn't wait for a presence. Don't trade the presence for a statue. When Moses comes down and sees the dancing and the idolatry, he smashes the stone tablets. I want you to imagine that sound, the sound of stone shattering. That was the sound of a broken covenant. Some of you watching this know that sound. You know the sound of a marriage breaking. You know the sound of your reputation shattering. You know the sound of your own heart breaking when you realize you've lied to yourself again. The Israelites were standing in the dust of their own failure. They had promised everything, and they had kept nothing. This is where most people walk away. They think, well, I blew it. The tablets are broken. God is done with me. But look at Exodus 34. God tells Moses, "Hew thee 2 tables of stone, like unto the first, and I will write upon these tables." This is the most important part of the entire sermon. God is the God of the second set of tablets. He didn't say, well, you broke the first one, so you're fired. He said, go back to the rock, cut some more stone. We're going to do this again. There is a massive detail here revealed in the Joseph Smith translation. The first set of tablets contained the higher law, the holy order. The second set, given after they sinned, was the law of a carnal commandment. Don't let the word carnal throw you. It just means a physical or preparatory law. God was saying, if you can't handle the high law yet, I'm not going to throw you away. I'm going to give you a schoolmaster law. I'm going to give you a set of rules that will train you and protect you until you are ready. God meets you where you are, but He loves you too much to leave you there. If you feel like you're living a lesser law right now, if you're just trying to survive, just trying to keep the basic rules, don't be ashamed. The second set of tablets was still written by the finger of God. It was still holy. It was the bridge that led them back to Him.
In the middle of all this, God pauses to talk about the Sabbath. In Exodus 31:13, He says the Sabbath is a sign between Him and the people. We often treat the Sabbath like a list of rules. Can I watch the game? Can I go to the store? President Russell M. Nelson changed the entire conversation when he said he stopped looking at lists and started asking one question: what sign do I want to give to God? Think about that. If you're in a long-distance relationship, you have a scheduled time to call every night. You don't do it because there's a rule. You do it as a sign to the other person that they are the most important thing in your world. When you choose how to spend your Sunday, you are sending a signal to heaven. When you set aside the work emails, you are saying, Lord, you are my provider, not my boss. When you gather with the saints, you are saying, Lord, your family is my family. The Sabbath isn't a test to see if you can be good. It's a weekly opportunity to tell the King of the universe, I'm still your Segullah. What sign do you want to give Him this week?
Finally, look at Moses when he comes down the mountain for the second time. Exodus 34:29 and 30. The text says the skin of his face shone. He didn't even know it. He had spent so much time in the proximity of the light that he started to reflect it. This is the goal of the law. It's not about being obedient so you can get a gold star in heaven. It's about being proximate. When you keep the commandments, when you honor the Sabbath, when you put away the idols, when you choose the second set of tablets over your own shame, you are moving closer to the light. And eventually, it starts to show. People won't look at you and say, wow, look at that person who keeps all the rules. They'll look at you and say, there is something about your face. There is a peace I can't explain. There is a light I can't find anywhere else. You don't have to try to shine. You just have to stay on the mountain.
I want to finish by talking to the person who feels like they're standing over a pile of broken tablets right now. You made the promises, you were all in, and then the silence of the 40 days got to you. You turned aside, you built a calf, and now you're sitting there in the dust thinking, I'm not a treasure, I'm just a mess. I want you to look up. Do you see Moses? He's walking back towards you. He's carrying 2 fresh stones, and he's telling you that God is not done. The Lord is merciful and gracious, long-suffering, and abundant in goodness. Exodus 34, verse 6. He isn't surprised by your failure. He was waiting for you to realize that you can't do it without him. So here is your challenge for this week. Identify your golden calf. What is the thing you turn to when God feels silent? Admit it. Give it a name. Wash your mind. Give God 5 minutes of pure silence today. No phone, no music, just you. Give him a sign. This Sunday, do one thing specifically to tell him, I love you more than I love my to-do list. You are the Segullah. You are the king's private collection. The mountain is still shaking, the fire is still burning, and the Father is still calling your name. Let's go back up the mountain together. I'll see you in the next one.